Tourism in Las Vegas is in a big slump this summer, costing the city billions of dollars. Some are saying that could signal trouble ahead for the U.S. economy.
The U.S. is tracking a big drop in tourism from around the world. Take a look at this. Travel from Canada and Mexico was down double digits in March. We're also seeing fewer visitors from Western Europe, Central and South Asia, South America, I should say.
Many businesses are bracing for what could be a sluggish summer. Visitors are even being told by their home countries to take their vacations and money elsewhere.
Here in New York, tourism is also being hit big time, once again driven by negative sentiment toward the USA.
In 2025, the United States is seeing a significant decline in international tourism. But this isn't just a result of global events or economic shifts. It's the direct impact of specific policies that have made visiting the U.S. less appealing for millions of tourists. From rising visa costs to stricter immigration controls, these changes have caused travelers to reconsider their plans to come to America.
This is what democracy looks like.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
But what exactly is driving this shift? Why are millions of people now choosing other destinations over the U.S.? In today's video, we're going to break down the key reasons behind this decline in U.S. tourism. We'll explore how new visa policies, tariffs, and immigration restrictions are pushing international visitors away, and how this is affecting the broader U.S. economy. The U.S. has always been a top travel destination, but in 2025, that's been changing.
We were not expecting it to be that expensive. It's quite expensive.
I've been to Vegas like probably 20 times, and I definitely think this is the slowest I've seen in a long time.
With new fees, longer waits for visas, and tariffs on goods, tourists from countries like Canada, Mexico, and Europe are heading elsewhere. And this year alone, the U.S. is projected to lose a staggering $12.5 billion in tourism revenue. Meanwhile, countries like Canada and those in Europe are seeing a rise in visitors. So what's going wrong for the U.S.? In this video, we'll look at the numbers, dig into the policies behind the decline, and talk about what could be done to reverse this trend. Let's start by examining the most significant change affecting travelers today, the new Visa Integrity Fee. Section 1, U.S. Visa and Travel Policies in 2025. Let's start by discussing the Visa Integrity Fee, which is one of the key factors driving the decline in U.S. tourism. In 2025, the U.S. introduced a new fee of $250 for visa applications. For many travelers, this is an additional financial burden on top of the already high visa application costs, which can now exceed $400. This might seem like a small fee, but for many potential visitors, especially from countries like India, China, and Mexico, it's enough to discourage them from applying. India, in particular, is one of the fastest growing sources of tourists to the U.S. However, this additional fee has led to a 10% decrease in the number of travelers from India in 2025. For context, India accounts for a significant portion of U.S. tourism, making this a noticeable drop in visitation. Next, let's talk about the visa interview process. In 2025, the U.S. implemented a new rule requiring all non-immigrant visa applicants to attend interviews in their home country. This policy might sound like a simple change, but it has major implications for many travelers. For example, people from India, Brazil, and Mexico now face wait times of up to 18 months for a visa interview. This means tourists are forced to plan their trips far in advance, or, in many cases, just give up on traveling to the U.S. altogether. This delay and uncertainty about securing a visa have led many international tourists to seek out easier, more accessible destinations. Instead of waiting for months to get a visa, travelers are choosing destinations where the entry process is quicker and more predictable. Countries in Europe, for instance, are benefiting from this trend, as travelers are opting to visit destinations like France, Germany, and the UK, instead of dealing with the cumbersome U.S. visa process. Now let's talk about another policy that has a direct effect on the perception of the U.S. as a travel destination: the U.S. tariffs. In 2025, tariffs on goods imported from Canada, Mexico, and the European Union are still in place. These tariffs not only affect trade, but also create higher costs for tourists coming from these regions. For example, tourists from Canada, who traditionally make up a large portion of visitors to the U.S., now face higher travel costs due to the increased price of goods and services.
I love going to the U.S. I spend a lot of time there.
But now you're curtailing that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
All in direct response to what President Trump is up to.
Basically,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
This has led to a 25% drop in Canadian visitors to the U.S. in 2025. To sum up, both the visa integrity fee and the changes in the visa application process have created barriers for international travelers. Along with the ongoing tariff policies, these factors have made the U.S. a less attractive destination. The increased costs and longer wait times have pushed many travelers to reconsider their plans, choosing alternative destinations that are more accessible and affordable. Section 2, U.S. Tariffs and Trade Policies. Now let's shift gears and look at how U.S. tariffs and trade policies are playing a crucial role in the decline of international tourism. Under the Trump administration, the U.S. imposed tariffs on goods from several key countries, including the European Union, Mexico, and Canada. These tariffs, which started in previous years, have continued to impact 2025, and they are not only affecting trade, but also the travel industry. When goods from Europe or Canada become more expensive due to tariffs, it raises the costs of travel-related products and services, things like airfares, hotel prices, and even tourist attractions. These increased costs are not just a problem for businesses, they're making it more expensive for international visitors to travel to the U.S. For example, let's talk about Canadian travelers who traditionally make up one of the largest groups of international visitors to the U.S. In 2025, Canadian tourism to the U.S. has dropped by 25%. Why? A significant part of this decline is due to the economic strain caused by tariffs, which make the U.S. less affordable for Canadian tourists. Moreover, the Canadian dollar has lost value against the U.S. dollar, further discouraging Canadians from making the trip. Similarly, travelers from Europe are also feeling the effects. In fact, European tourism to the U.S. has decreased by around 17% in 2025. While tariffs aren't the only factor, they are contributing to the higher overall cost of traveling to America. Things like airfare, hotel stays, and meals are now more expensive for Europeans due to the added cost of tariffs on goods. This in turn has made European travelers think twice about visiting the U.S., especially when there are alternative destinations in Europe that are more affordable. Mexico is another key example. As one of the U.S.'s closest neighbors, Mexico traditionally sends millions of tourists across the border each year. However, with tariffs in place and economic instability in both the U.S. and Mexico, tourism from Mexico has dropped significantly as well. In 2025, there has been a 15% decrease in Mexican visitors to the U.S., as more people opt for domestic travel or visit other Latin American countries. In addition to these direct effects on tourism, tariffs also send a broader message to international travelers. The U.S. is becoming less welcoming. When travelers see that prices are rising and the political climate is tense, they begin to look elsewhere for their vacation spots. The travel industry, especially in places like Florida and California, is feeling the pinch as fewer international tourists are willing to pay the extra costs. To sum up, tariffs are a key driver behind the decline in U.S. tourism. By making goods and services more expensive, these trade policies are discouraging travelers from regions like Canada, Mexico, and Europe from visiting the U.S. What was once an affordable and attractive destination is becoming less accessible, and as a result, countries like Mexico and Canada are seeing a rise in visitors, while the U.S. continues to struggle. Section 3, Immigration Policies and Security Concerns. Now let's turn our attention to immigration policies, which have played a significant role in making the U.S. less appealing to international tourists. Under the Trump administration, there have been numerous changes to immigration rules that not only affect those looking to immigrate to the U.S., but also those coming for temporary visits. One of the most controversial policies is the Visa Bond Program, which requires visitors from certain countries deemed high risk to post a financial bond of up to $15,000. This policy has had a chilling effect on many international travelers, particularly those from countries with higher visa overstay rates, like Mexico, Haiti, and Myanmar. For travelers from these countries, the visa bond requirement is a significant deterrent. It's an additional financial burden that makes traveling to the U.S. seem not only expensive, but also risky. Many international tourists are now choosing to avoid the U.S., altogether because they can't afford or don't want to deal with the hassle of having to pay a large, refundable bond that may not be returned if they overstay their visa, even by a day. Beyond the financial burden of the visa bond, there's also the matter of the heightened border security measures. Under Trump, there was a major shift in how the U.S. approached border control and security checks. These tighter regulations have made international travelers feel as though they're being scrutinized and targeted rather than welcome. For many, these additional security measures have turned what was once a routine and relatively easy travel experience into something more stressful and intimidating. Many travelers from regions like Asia and Africa are now reconsidering their trips to the U.S. because of these tighter security protocols. They simply don't want to risk their travel plans being delayed, or worse, being denied entry after a lengthy and intrusive process at the U.S. border. The impact of these immigration policies extends beyond just a financial or security concern. They send a message that the U.S. is no longer as welcoming to international visitors as it once was. For many tourists, the U.S. was always seen as a land of opportunity and excitement, but with increasing visa restrictions and tougher security measures, that image is starting to fade. The results of these policies speak for themselves. Countries like Mexico, India, and Haiti, which have historically been major sources of tourists to the U.S., are seeing a sharp decline in travel. For example, Mexican visitors have dropped by 15% in 2025 alone, and countries like Haiti are seeing even larger declines as potential travelers are discouraged by the prospect of dealing with financial bonds and stringent security measures. This has led to a ripple effect across the U.S. travel industry. Tourism-dependent cities like Las Vegas, Orlando, and New York City are seeing a noticeable dip in international visitors. In fact, Las Vegas has reported an 11% drop in hotel occupancy for 2025 as international visitors, who make up a large part of its clientele, are no longer booking rooms at the same rates as before. California, which typically attracts millions of international visitors every year, is also feeling the pinch. In summary, the U.S.'s immigration policies, such as the visa bond program and heightened security measures, have had a severe impact on international tourism. The financial burden of the visa bond, coupled with the stressful and intimidating security checks, is leading many potential visitors to look elsewhere. While these policies may be intended to secure the nation's borders, they are also pushing tourists away, and the U.S. tourism industry is feeling the consequences. For many international travelers, the U.S. is no longer the welcoming destination it once was. Section 4. Economic impact of declining tourism. Now that we've explored how visa policies, tariffs, and immigration restrictions have contributed to the decline in international tourism, let's take a look at the economic impact this has had on the U.S. Tourism is a vital industry for the U.S. economy. In 2025, the U.S. is projected to see an 8.2% decline in international tourist arrivals, which represents a loss of $12.5 billion in tourism revenue. This isn't just a small dip. It's a huge financial blow to the economy, especially given that tourism is one of the country's largest export industries. For context, international tourism is the third largest export for the United States, only behind capital goods and industrial supplies. Tourism accounts for about $200 billion annually in revenue, and in recent years, it has been a significant driver of growth in the hospitality, retail, and transportation industries. But with millions of tourists choosing other destinations, this vital source of income is being drastically affected. Let's break down how this is impacting key sectors within the U.S. economy. The hospitality industry, which includes hotels, resorts, and other accommodations, is one of the hardest hit sectors. In cities like Las Vegas, which traditionally relies heavily on international tourists, the drop in visitors has resulted in an 11% decrease in hotel occupancy in 2025. As international visitors stay away, local businesses are feeling the strain. Hotels are cutting prices to attract domestic tourists, but even that hasn't been enough to fill the rooms left vacant by international travelers. In New York City, a hub for tourists from around the world, the impact is also significant. Tourism-dependent businesses, such as restaurants, tour companies, and souvenir shops, have reported a 15–20% drop in revenue this year. Many smaller businesses are finding it difficult to survive in the face of this decline. and some are even closing down due to the reduced foot traffic. Next, let's look at the airline industry, which is also feeling the effects of declining international tourism. According to the International Air Transport Association, IATA, American Airlines has reported a 12% drop in international flight bookings for 2025. This loss in bookings has put pressure on airlines to adjust their schedules, with some international routes being cut altogether. For airports, particularly those in major metropolitan areas like Los Angeles, Chicago, and Miami, the reduction in international travelers has led to fewer passengers overall. This means less revenue from everything, from ticket sales to food and retail concessions. Airports are seeing a significant drop in foot traffic, and this has had a knock-on effect on local businesses that rely on tourists passing through. The loss of international tourists isn't just affecting large industries. Small businesses that depend on tourism are also bearing the brunt of the decline. For example, souvenir shops, tour guides, and local transportation companies in tourist-heavy areas like Florida and California are reporting significant losses. These small businesses, which rely on foot traffic from international visitors, are seeing a 15–20% decrease in sales. This is particularly tough for businesses that have no other sources of revenue to fall back on, as international tourists are a vital part of their customer base. The employment sector is also feeling the effects of declining tourism. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, over 100,000 jobs were lost in the travel and hospitality industries as businesses scale back operations due to reduced demand. Many workers in hotels, restaurants, and travel agencies face reduced hours or layoffs. These job losses are hitting low-wage workers hardest, contributing to rising unemployment rates in regions heavily reliant on tourism. For states that depend on tourism as a major source of income, like Florida, Nevada, and Hawaii, the economic fallout has been particularly severe. In Florida, for example, the tourism sector represents around $60 billion in economic output annually, and a drop in international visitors has resulted in a $5 billion revenue loss. Similarly, Hawaii, which depends on foreign travelers to support its economy, is seeing a $3 billion decline in tourism-related revenue in 2025. This loss isn't just hurting businesses, it's impacting state and local governments as well. Local governments rely on the revenue generated by the tourism industry to fund public services like schools, roads, and healthcare. With less revenue coming in from tourism taxes and fees, public services are feeling the strain. To sum it up, the decline in international tourism is having a profound impact on multiple sectors of the U.S. economy. From hospitality and airlines to small businesses and state revenues, the ripple effect of this downturn is being felt across the country. As international tourism continues to drop in 2025, the U.S. will need to find a way to turn things around before these economic losses grow even larger. This issue goes beyond just tourism. It's about the long-term health of the U.S. economy, which relies on the steady influx of international visitors. Section 5, Solutions and Responses from the U.S. Government. Now that we've covered the challenges facing U.S. tourism, let's turn our attention to what's being done to reverse this decline. The U.S. government, along with industry leaders, has recognized the importance of restoring international tourism. But what are they doing to fix the situation? First, the U.S. government has started to explore potential solutions. For example, the State Department has discussed reducing visa fees for travelers from certain countries to make it more affordable for tourists to visit. This move aims to encourage visitors from key markets like India, Mexico, and Brazil, where the visa application process has become increasingly expensive and complicated. In addition, the visa application process is being streamlined to reduce the lengthy waiting times that have discouraged many travelers. For instance, there have been talks about introducing expedited visa processing for tourists from countries with strong travel ties to the U.S. This could significantly reduce the long wait times that have become a major barrier for travelers, particularly from high-demand countries like India and China. Another key measure that could help is the push to expand the Visa Waiver Program, VWP. The VWP allows citizens of certain countries to visit the U.S. for up to 90 days without a visa. Expanding this program to include more countries could help attract more international visitors without the complexities and costs of visa applications. For example, Brazil and Argentina are two countries that could be added to the list, making it easier for people from these regions to travel to the U.S. without dealing with visa delays or extra fees. The travel and tourism industry is also working to address the challenges. Organizations like the American Hotel and Lodging Association, AHLA, and the U.S. Travel Association are lobbying for a full overhaul of the visa integrity fee and other policies that have made the U.S. less welcoming. These groups argue that the added visa costs and lengthy processes are driving away millions of potential visitors, and they are pushing the government to implement more tourism-friendly policies. One of the most popular solutions being suggested by the tourism industry is a renewed marketing campaign aimed at highlighting the U.S. as a top tourist destination. The Brand USA initiative, which was launched to promote international tourism, could be expanded with a larger budget to increase awareness of American travel destinations. This would help remind travelers around the world that the U.S. remains a dynamic and welcoming destination, despite the policy changes. Beyond practical measures, there's also a need to restore the global perception of the U.S. as a welcoming nation. For many international visitors, the image of the U.S. has been tarnished by immigration restrictions, visa bans, and heightened security protocols. Rebuilding that image will require a shift in tone from both the government and the tourism industry. It will be crucial to emphasize the U.S.'s diverse culture, vibrant cities, and iconic tourist destinations like New York City, Los Angeles, and the Grand Canyon, and show that the U.S. is still an attractive place to visit. To wrap up, while the decline in U.S. tourism presents significant challenges, there are solutions on the horizon. By reducing visa fees, expediting visa processing, and expanding the visa waiver program, the government can help make the U.S. more accessible to international travelers. Industry advocacy for a more tourism-friendly environment is also crucial, and an expanded marketing campaign could help restore the global perception of the U.S. as a welcoming travel destination. The key will be finding a balance between national security concerns and the economic needs of the tourism industry, while ensuring that international visitors feel welcomed and valued. These efforts will take time, but with the right policies and a shift in approach, the U.S. can begin to reverse the decline in international tourism and regain its position as a global leader in travel. So, there you have it. The decline in international tourism to the U.S. in 2025 is the result of several factors. Visa policies, tariffs, and immigration restrictions have all played a part in pushing millions of tourists away. But while the challenges are significant, there are steps being taken to address them, from reducing visa fees to expediting processing times, and even expanding the visa waiver program. The question remains, can the U.S. recover from this decline in tourism, or will these policies continue to hurt the country's economy in the long term? Only time will tell. What do you think? Are these measures enough to bring back international visitors? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video if you found the information helpful, and subscribe for more updates on this topic and other current issues. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.